Hey parents, welcome to today's episode. Seth and I introduce you to what's called the circle of control. There's 3 circles actually, and it really helps define or reduce overfunctioning. It can help you clarify boundaries and really stay connected with your child of any age without caring what is not yours. So really hope you enjoy. This is a great little model to help just clarify some things. Enjoy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our podcast. Hi, Seth.
I was like, what word is going to come out?
I know sometimes you never know.
It's true.
Oh, my goodness. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah. I'm really excited about today because this information we're about to go over, like the circle of control, is you can find it online and whatnot, but I really went in depth with it in my Boundaries Masterclass workshop that was live about a month or 2 ago. And now it's on my website for a great price, kind of a DIY recorded version. I just wanted to throw that out there for people because sometimes you're just dying to know more than just what a podcast can offer. But I also wanted to put it on the podcast because not everybody, can afford it, whether it's the recorded or the live version. So here you go, my gift. To the world. Just kidding. a little bit of something.
Here's a little snippet.
Yeah, a little snippet. Exactly. Okay. So I think for parents, right, it's so confusing and complex. What it is that I'm worried about, what it is that I am in charge of, right? Should I help my kid with this? Should I not? Like, do I step in here? I can think of just countless examples from my own kids. And then of course my clients of just trying to figure out, like, should I butt my nose in right here?
What do I do?
What do I do? And so many times we're not even asking that.
Yeah.
Which I think is the first step of really asking better questions to help yourself figure out, is this mine? Is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Man. And it really is different for everybody to some degree. We'll get into the specifics. So, okay. So there's 3 circles, everybody. There's the circle of control.
Right.
And then there's the circle of influence in the middle. And then there's a circle of concern.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to go ahead and just define those, we would say the circle of control.
Yeah.
Right. Represents what you as the parent directly controls. So like your choices, your tone, your boundaries, whether you follow through, how you're following through, and also like your resources, right? Like money, time, self-care, your car.
Yeah.
The circle of control could be anybody. It's not just parents, right? Like you could be a kid thinking, gosh, I wonder if this is my up to my friend or not. Like, should I step in or not? So honestly, anyone listening, but since it's mostly parents, we'll just do that.
Yeah.
So the circle of influence is so important because it's where your presence matters. This is where you want to be spending quite a bit of your time, honestly, as a parent, right? You want to be present, attentive, available.
Yeah.
There's some words, but you don't want to be rescuing or overbearing or helicoptery or completely out either.
Yeah.
So it's like how you listen. That can be a great influence. How you model behavior. I think boundaries are really in your control, but the influence of your boundaries go into the influence circle. How you invite change.
Right.
How you possibly try to repair or you don't repair.
Right.
So that's all in the circle of influence. Timing. I think a parent's timing is so important, and how and when we try to influence or when we realize I'm going to let this sit for a minute.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So the influence circle is big. And I think this is where it's every parent wants to be of some kind of influence. Like this is what we're trying to do. So this is a big circle and we're going to get it. I just want to explain them first and we'll get into it. So then the circle of concern. And
Yes.
I love this, I guess, idea that I'm just not, you know, well, you go live on the street if you want. It's like
Mm,
it's just not that easy. Or
no.
like people talk about getting off the roller coaster with your kid.
Right.
Yes, that is ideal, but that is so hard to do. I'm always going to be I just feel like I'm going to be concerned to some degree, but I want to lessen the concern. And
Right.
I can't do anything about it. So that's the circle of concern. So this is what matters deeply. It matters a lot, but it's
Hmm.
just not yours to control.
Right.
Okay? So there's then under this circle is the maybe a diagnosis or diagnoses that your kid might have,
Sure.
um, timelines,
Mm,
motivation, relapse,
right.
outcomes, and for Pete's sake, their potential is not within your control.
Right.
I think that's a concern. Like, oh, I just hear that a lot. Like parents say, oh, I would just really want them to meet their potential. I'm like, well, that's actually not your job.
Well, and is that an actual fair statement, or
Right.
is it the parents' perceived
Yes.
potential that they're putting an expectation for their child to live up to?
Ugh, see, we could just end right there. We could just drop the mic right there. Seriously, that's it.
Right.
Wait a minute. It's my job to own my potential and to understand what I want and where I'm going and all that. And it's my kids' job to figure that out for themselves what their potential is. I think that's such
Hmm.
a, I guess, misconstrued idea that the parent is supposed to understand their kid's potential. Isn't that fascinating? That is not well known. I would say
Right.
most parents are probably balking right now, going, "What? Seth, stop it." But I'm telling
I
you,
will not.
I will not stop. Um, that's a big deal. I
It
think a big
is.
deal, the potential thing. So
It is.
yeah. And if my one of my kids or two or whatever, if they love their job that does not make them very much money, why is that my business?
Mm,
Especially if I have
yeah.
boundaries around not giving them money.
Right. Right.
That
It's
would
their
be
choice. It's their
their
life, and
choice.
they get to live within their means and figure out what that means. And maybe
Yeah,
there's invaluable lessons in that.
exactly. They just get to do that. So,
Right. And maybe their values are different than yours.
oh, right? Can you imagine?
Shocking.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Oh, I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
I sometimes ponder how fascinating some of the advice my parents gave me and how ridiculous it was.
Mm.
Or like, tried to see,
Oh,
quote,
yeah.
my potential. And I'm like, uh, and I wonder, I doubt this is the case across the board, but I feel like my parents' potential of me was capped pretty low. And that was
Mm.
actually kind of heartbreaking a little bit, because
Absolutely.
they had their own capped potential. And so then they were like, didn't see more for me than even I
Hmm.
saw. So there's that like side of it. But then there's the parents who, like want their kids to be
Right. Right.
whatever, Warren Buffett or
Here's my
something.
question. Anytime that your potential was talked about, did it ever sit well with you?
No, no.
Because it never sat well with me
Oh
either.
yeah.
I
Right?
don't know anybody that it does sit well with,
Yeah. I love that question. I think that's so fair. I felt
because it's this
unseen.
outside perspective that, yeah, it's either too low or too high, or
Yeah,
whatever. It's not you.
that's exactly.
It's somebody else's desire for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I think parents talk among themselves quite a bit with that language, like, oh, they just have so much more potential.
Right.
And it feels, I think it maybe feels like you have belief in them, possibly. Um,
I think that's the messaging that parents
you think.
want
Yeah.
to come across, but it is not how it is received.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love this little side. We could probably have a podcast on potential now that I think about it, but
Right. Right.
but I love that. Yeah, exactly. So
Hmm.
potential might be in your concern box, but it is not
Right.
yours to manage at all
Right.
in any way. So this is so interesting, right? Because I think as parents, we tend to forget about our own circle of control, right? That's like our
Mm.
tagline for the podcast. The change starts with us, begins with
Yeah.
us.
Right.
So we tend to
Right.
forget that. And then we tend to spend most, and I mean most, of our time in this circle of control. So, excuse me, circle of
Concern.
concern,
Right.
trying to manipulate all the things that we actually don't have control over. And so what happens is our suffering increases when we try to control what actually belongs in the circle of concern.
Hmm.
And that's I just was at a parent summit, and which I'm at often, and this is what mostly is being talked about, and I have so much empathy. And I have
Hmm.
empathy for you listeners. I do. I remember, right? I have
Yeah.
a lived experience. It's very close to me.
Yeah.
But that is what we have to think about. Is like, wait a second, and asking the questions of like, oh, wait a minute, is this in my circle of concern or influence or control? Where does this land? This thing, like my
And
kid's schooling.
you're talking about thoughts, behavior, actions,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Like I can't get my kid to school. I can't get them
Hmm.
up. So what part of that is mine? What part of that is theirs? That's a tricky one, right?
Hmm.
Because their getting up is a high concern, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I can't make my kid get up no matter what I do.
No.
I can't, but I can control and influence quite a bit, right?
Right.
So you have to think about like, okay, wait a second. They're actually getting up and them actually getting to school really is probably in my circle of concern.
Right.
I'm concerned about them. I want to think about ways to help them. I want to try to motivate them. I'm going to try to have some boundaries. I'm going to do all those things. But if I concentrate on just getting them the freak out of their bed, it's not going to really go anywhere.
No.
I've got to
No.
go back to my circle of control and my circle of influence and really think about what I can possibly do to help
Right.
have them choose it.
Right.
That's just an example.
Do you know what's do you know what's coming up for me as you're speaking?
Tell me.
Two different images. One of them is that pendulum swing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Influence being the center, grounded, calm, steady, no movement. The other is like concern and control on opposite sides. And that fluctuation between the two being drastic, increasing, one affecting the other more and more, leading to this like sway of emotions, feelings, lack of regulation, all
Mm-hmm.
of these things. So it's kind of like what is it to be a friend, what is it to be authoritarian, what is it to be a mentor, right? Like
Yeah.
I see a parallel in
Okay.
those, right?
Yeah.
I'm also seeing like the influence in the center as like the real roots and foundation of a tree,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And if the influence is really strong, there can be like growth, but when like the concern and the control, I don't know where I don't know where they land when it comes to the imagery, but they're taking away from like the structure of the roots.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I like both those images.
But yeah, it's that how do we stay within this space of influence, which is going to be the most impactful as well as like the best thing for us as well as the best thing for the individual.
Yeah. Yeah. I just thought of a really simple example that actually happened to me
Hmm.
just the other day um, with my 10-year-old. Now,
Right.
I know that most people who are listening have older children, and I get it, but this is such a simple example. And it's taken me a long time to figure this one out. But we were doing like the nighttime routine, brush the teeth, the whole thing. And then we read together.
Hmm.
And so, and he kind of looked sad. And I said, "Hey, buddy, like, what's up?" And he just buried his face in his pillow, and he's just like, I'm so lonely. And so he has four older brothers. None of them live here anymore.
Oh,
You know,
sure.
he
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
alone. And that actually taps into a wound of mine, to be completely honest, which is always how it goes.
Right.
Because I was kind of alone a lot as a child. And so I was like, oh, and I said, come here. I said, can I hold you? He said, and he's 10. So he said, of course. And so I'm sitting there holding him. And in my head, right, I'm just like, okay, I need to have more play dates. Oh, I should have played with him more. Oh, I shouldn't work so much. Oh, I should. I was like, all this judgment flooded in.
Hmm.
And how can I save him from? It was like just the brain doing what it does.
Yeah.
And so I start thinking about all these things, and I'm like, whoa, okay, whoa, Nelly. And I was like, oh, he just he just gets to be sad.
Yeah.
And I just, all this is kind of happening in my head as I'm holding him. And I was just like, oh, honey, I'm, gosh, I've been sad before. It's so
Hmm.
hard, but I'm just going to be here for it.
Hmm.
And then we just were, we were quiet for probably a good 5 or 10 minutes.
Right.
And, and then I just held him as long as I guess he needed held for. And then he just kind of raises up and he goes, thanks. I was like, I did not do anything. That was in my head. I'm like, I was doing nothing. And then I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, you know what I did? I didn't say anything. I didn't fix anything. I didn't jump
Right.
to my phone and start planning play dates. I
Right.
just held him, and
Right.
he just came out of it. And look, I know he's 10, and I know it's a simple example. And I know some of those parent brains are like,
It's good. It's a
that's
good
not,
example, though.
yeah. But I was like, no, it was so great because of course my brain's going to do what it does and try to
Right.
figure out all the things. But then I like, and then he actually taught me, like, all he wanted was for me to be there with him. I think of the roots of the tree. I'm just
Yeah.
so I'm stable.
Right.
Nothing's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Nothing. And so it was interesting because I think a lot of people would say, well, there's not very much crisis there. I'm like, you don't understand. My brain had it in crisis. Like, we have to
Oh,
nip this,
absolutely.
like
Right.
he's going to reach for drugs if he doesn't
Right.
stop feeling alone. Like, so many things my brain went to. But it was a really beautiful, another example of just
Mm.
parents, the ability to just be there.
Mm.
And that was an influence circle because I the timing of it and my silence of it, being willing to let myself be silent, which is sometimes hard for me to do.
Sure. Sure.
So yeah, it was just a beautiful
Mm.
experience for me to just remind myself, like, this is not all they need all the time, but it's mostly what they need.
Well, and as you're speaking, I realize where the concern and the control come into play when it comes to the tree thing for me.
Tell me.
Concern is like all the weather that's happening, right?
Yeah, blowing
So
and
like the wind, snowstorm, and ice storm, like too much rain, too much water, all of those things, right? How is it going to affect the tree? How's it going to
yeah,
affect the roots? How's it going to affect all of that?
and you can try to stop the rain as
But
much as you
but you're not gonna,
nope.
right? Think these things are gonna happen. They're
Yes.
out of your control. And then the control part with the tree is like, well, I'm gonna shape it. Like I'm gonna cut off these limbs and I'm gonna make it grow to look like this, to like it's you then
Oh,
like actually, you know, shaping the tree or cutting it down or uprooting it and replanting it or whatever the case may be.
like
But
caring for it.
well, sure.
That should be the circle of control. If it's your circle, that means like, oh, can I does it need to I don't that's what I'm thinking of. Like, right, my
Sure.
like the self-care of the tree would
Got
be
it.
my circle of control,
Sure.
I think,
That makes sense. That makes sense.
outside of the weather that I
Right.
can't control.
Right. Right. Outside of the
Okay.
weather that you can't control. Sorry, it
Mm,
just all kind of came to me
yeah, yeah.
and got and brought back together. So I wanted
I
to
like it.
complete. I didn't want a half
Right.
visualization.
Yeah, no, I like it because I think that works for me. I'm a very visual person, and
Yeah.
so I'm like, oh yeah, the control circuit to remind ourselves, like, control means like what's in my control. So I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I could probably trim the tree. I could keep it pruned.
Yeah.
I could decide if I, wanted to hang a bird feeder from it, or do you know what I mean? I could
Yeah,
manipulate it in
yeah.
my own ways.
Right.
Um, I could build a fence possibly,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
I could do some things to help it.
Of
I could
course.
feed it
Yep. Yep.
all
Feeding
the
it's good. Feeding
feeding it's
it's
good.
good.
Oh, I like it. I like
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So
So how do you know, like, I mean, I understand, but I would like a little bit more like explanation, clarification
mm,
in regards to how do you know
that's a
where
great,
you are?
yeah, that's a great question. I honestly think it would be helpful to draw three circles on a piece of paper that
Mm.
everybody has access to.
Hmm.
And, the left one's controlled, the middle one's influence, the right one's concern. And I would write down those things that that I'd kind of gone over at the beginning of the
Sure.
podcast. And I think when something comes up, and I mean like anything comes up, right? Like so many parents talk to me like, I just want my kid to eat healthy.
Mm.
Okay. So let's use that as an example. If I'm looking at those three pieces of paper and I'm thinking, and I go to my paper for, to try to help myself. And I think, okay,
Yeah.
where does this belong? And it's like, okay, you know, um, can I make them eat? Can I shove bananas down their throat? No, I
No.
cannot. Um, but I definitely have an influence of the food I have in my home. I know
Right.
so many
Right.
parents
Right.
are like,
Right.
you mean I've got to like stop buying cookies? I'm like, you
Yeah.
don't got to do anything, but you could,
Right.
you could buy less treats. Yeah.
Hmm.
And if you wanted a treat, go take yourself out for ice cream if that's the thing,
Right. Right.
right? I think a
Yeah.
lot of parents, I'll just mention, because of maybe their lack in childhood, their
Mm.
wounds, for better word, or traumas in childhood,
Right. Yeah.
they are like, no, I deserve ice cream and I deserve cookies. Great,
Well, of course,
you
but
do.
right. Right.
And
Right.
you might want to, that's the thing you can manage, because most parents instead will be like, well, I don't want to buy less, or I don't want to change the way I shop. I just want them to choose differently. I'm like, that's not yours. So
Right.
that's what's really
Right.
tricky, is letting go of, no, I get this. It's my right. Yeah. And do you want to be an influencer or not? I mean, that's a little harsh, but
Right. But
you know,
it's more along the lines of like, yeah, monkey see, monkey do,
yeah.
and I'll be honest. There's times where I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I eating like crap? And I'm like, oh yeah, because you just bought 8 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. That's why.
That's why. Oh,
You
they're so
know.
good. Exactly. So I think, okay, my child eating healthy is in the circle of concern. I
Right.
actually have every right. Of course, I'm concerned about what they're eating, what they're using to fuel their body.
Yeah.
But the influence is really where I take part in that.
Yes.
How often do I take them to eat? How often am I buying something? Am I giving them, free for all Uber Eats account
Mm,
with my credit card? And if you are and
mm,
you decided that on purpose, like that's not a problem. I'm just saying
right.
that is where you would have some influence. And so your boundaries really belong in your circle of control, because it's up to you completely, but then they
Okay.
highly influence your kid.
Yeah.
So, and so what your question was is, how do people decipher, discern where it is? And I'm thinking, well, if you have a topic or an issue on your mind, you can go and say, okay, where does this end up in my circles? And then what's my part in it? There's a lot of
Right.
overlap here with things we've talked about before, but I
100%.
happen to just be really into the three circles lately, because I was like, loved it, and it made sense to me,
Yeah.
which is why I put it that boundaries, master class. It's like, yeah, and asking the question, and I actually say this often when I'm coaching, the question is everything. If you can
Mm,
start with a question of like, wait a minute, where does this belong? Oh, it's so great to that's the first step, is really being willing to ask the question, wait, is this mine or
right.
not? Where does this belong? And then figuring out, like, okay, well, if they have let's say they're 18 and over and they have their own Uber Eats and it's on their credit card, well, folks,
Then
not much you can
it's
do,
yeah. Right. Right.
you know? And so it's like, you could, and let me tell you, there's a lot of good information, a lot of good books about helping someone eat healthier. And one of
Mm.
one of the things is not just don't criticize.
Oh
Don't
my gosh. Yeah.
don't criticize, don't bring it up all the time. just stop talking about other people's bodies. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
My
Right.
son taught me that actually.
Right.
I learned a lot from him because he's fairly thin.
Yeah.
Maybe I've said this before, and I said something like, "You're kind of getting skinny there, kid. You should
Right.
eat some meat." And he was just like, "You want me to body shame you?" Oh, that was a big day. I was like, "Wait a second. How is calling you thin body shaming you?" And then he was like, "Mom,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Whether you
Right.
call somebody fat or call somebody skinny, you're judging their body." I was like, "Wow, he was right. So right."
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
that was a good lesson that day.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, it turns out I don't want you to mention my body at all."
Mm.
So I'm pretty sure our children are asking the same thing. So there's a lot with that, but the idea really is to, yeah, ask the question.
Right. Is this
Making a
right?
chart for yourself, like visually, is so helpful, I think.
Oh, it
um
is.
it's everything.
And
Put
pen
it
to
up on your
paper
fridge.
is huge.
Yeah, it really is. Pen to paper is huge. Put it on your fridge
Mm-hmm.
and really start sorting. It's the sorting, and if you get it wrong, it's okay. Right, you
Right.
just
Right.
trial and error and figure it out. And um there's a bit of a language to influencing too.
Sure.
um so I think that's just helpful, like invitation type of language. Let's see, what can I think of? Oh, here we go. So control language is like, hey, you need to dot dot dot.
Right.
Influence languages, I'm willing to dot dot dot.
I like that.
Yeah.
I do.
Another example is control language. If you loved us, you would dot dot dot. And the influence language is, I love you, and here's what I can or can't do.
Yes.
Okay. And then the last one is control language would be, why are you doing this again? Right.
Or stop doing it.
Or
Don't
stop
do
doing it.
it.
Yeah, exactly. And the influence language is, I'm noticing this, and I'm going to respond differently this time.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Oh, I just think
Yeah.
that's so helpful. Um, this is hard stuff because, like I said about the concern circle, excuse me, you have every right to be concerned about things. This is someone you love, care about, you've raised, you've sacrificed for, all these things. And yet the idea is we're trying to raise adults here. And so we've got to
Yeah.
really just let them have what's already theirs. And, you know, so
That's great.
there's our
Snippet.
two bits today.
There's our two bits today, but I really like this, and I would like to talk more about this. And I also really encourage people to check out what you're offering, because I think this really comes down to a great way to relate differently.
Yeah. Yeah. It really helps you kind of separate, like, okay, this is what I need to focus on, my circle of control. And I'm
Right.
going to try to influence the best I can. So
Yeah.
awesome. Thanks, Seth.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
guys.
Okay. Bye
Have
bye.
a good day.